It's a beautiful day in America, folks. The amber waves of grain are waving. The sea to shining sea is shining. The melting pot is melting. The great American experiment is bubbling placidly. It's a rolling simmer. The beacon of freedom stands proud on this morning in America. And, oh my God, a gust of wind and the beacon has fallen over. The beacon of freedom. An electrical fire has lit the amber waves of grain. The shining seas are rising. The shining sitting on a hill is no longer shining, and the hill is crumbling. Oh my God. The sea to shining sea levels are swamping the city on a hill. Oh my God. Charlie, get this, Charlie. Oh, it's fire. Oh, it's terrible. Oh my, get out of the way of that crashing metaphor. This is the worst of the worst catastrophes in the world. It's a terrific crash, ladies and gentlemen. There's smoke and the symbolism. Oh, it's burning. It's all very literary, folks. Oh, the humility and the hubris of mankind on full display. Oh, I can't talk, ladies and gentlemen. America's just laying there, a massive smoking wreckage, and oh, I can hardly breathe and talk. And the screaming. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't go on. Oh, Charlie. I gotta go inside and take an aspirin. Hold me, Charlie. We gotta turn it over to our affiliates at Hard Ticket to take over. Oh, my God. Oh, God.
Going to the movies, gonna catch a double flick. They're playing at the same time, so I guess I gotta pick. One's an awesome movie, and one's a killer flick. So let's all talk things over and do our little shtick. It's a hard ticket at the movies. Which one will you watch? Let's decide. It's a hard ticket at the movies.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Hard Ticket, the show where we go to the movies expecting a double feature, only to find that both movies are playing at the exact same time. So now, we have a hard ticket to choose between the two. I'm Jeff Bogus.
And I'm Tristan Moore.
And joining us today are Thomas and Frank from the Meet Your Double Feature podcast. Guys, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Excited to be here.
Yeah. Before we get into the discussion, I would like to give you the opportunity to plug your podcast. Tell us a little bit more about why this is like a match made in heaven kind of crossover for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So Meet Your Double Feature, much like Hard Ticket, is a double feature movie review podcast. We started not long after you guys did and came across your content and realized there was some similarity with it. Our premise is a little bit different. Frank and I specialize in talking about movies neither of us had ever seen previously. So we will for each episode, give the other person a movie to watch that neither of us has seen, but we think they would like. And then we come into the recordings to essentially give little book reports on the one that we watched, figure out who gave the better sort of blind recommendation, and then we determine at the end, who's the winner? Because really, if you picked a worse movie, are you not a worse man?
There you go.
Yeah, we like the competition element.
Competition.
Of it. It's got to be a versus thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And you all, for your first season, you were doing like 90s movies, like underseen 90s gems. And then
Yep.
your second season, you all are doing like underseen superhero movies?
That's
correct?
exactly it. We're doing forgotten superhero movies, mostly like pre, 2008 when everything became an interconnected
yes.
universe. So our first episode with that, we talked about the 1980s Supergirl movie, which I didn't even know existed, but
Oh,
was a
wow.
fun one ahead of the one coming out later this year. And then Frank asked me to watch a movie starring Shaquille O'Neal, which, spoilers for that one, it sucked.
They're not all winners.
I'm in the middle of that episode right now.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
But yeah, our show comes out alternating Thursdays. So every 2 weeks, you can find us pretty much anywhere, socials or any podcast platform by searching Meet Your Double Feature.
Yeah, definitely. And you guys, you're industry professionals as well.
That's true. Frank, I'll give that one to you. Frank has his own movie coming out, his own independent film.
Yes, he does.
Yes. First independent feature film being released from Sardonic Motion Pictures, which is the name of the production company that I started with a close friend of mine. And our film is titled Nate and Mariah in Venice. It was shot entirely on location in Italy, which is really cool. And it's going to be on streaming first quarter of this year. I actually just talked with the distributor earlier this week, so we do have a home that's going to be heading to. I don't think I can say exactly where it is yet because it's not finalized, but streaming available very soon, Nate and Mariah in Venice, and you can also check out sardonicmp.com for any updates about that in the future too.
Yeah, definitely. It's exciting, and I can't wait to watch it. If you put it up against a movie on our podcast or your podcast, what would you pair it with? I'm so curious.
Oh, I mean, a lot of people, when we were in production on this film, were comparing it to the Before trilogy of films, the Richard Linklater series, which I love those films. But we made a specific point when we were in production to not watch them, and because we wanted to differentiate ourselves as much as possible and kind of make it our own, but I think it would be kind of fun to put those two side by side and see how much they line up.
Yeah, I do love. I've only seen Before Sunrise, but
Yeah.
it's hard. They hurt.
Oh yeah.
Those movies
are
are
great films. Those are great films.
Yeah.
And there's certainly a departure from the two movies that we're talking about today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to my co-host Tristan to introduce us to option number A.
Yeah, option number A for adventure. We have both these titles sound like roller coaster rides. This one especially sounds like a Disneyland excursion. It's
Like the Drop Tower.
Yeah. 1972's The Poseidon Adventure, directed by Ronald Neame. I don't know, workman of the industry, I suppose. Starring Gene Hackman, Ernest Borgnine, and a bunch of other people. Most notable to me was Leslie Nielsen as the captain. I think that he's just billed as the captain in the credits, which is exciting. This is a pre-airplane Leslie Nielsen. This is a pre-airplane disaster film.
Yeah, it is.
About an ocean liner called the Poseidon that is on its way to Athens, appropriately. And it capsizes. It flips upside down in the middle of the ocean. And then a group of survivors have to escape in an upside down ship. It's a lot of fun.
Yes, a lot of fun. Remade in 2006 with just the movie Poseidon, which we will also get into. But let's take it over to option number B, which I will introduce. It's The Towering Inferno, yet another amusement park themed movie, but not really. It's about the tallest building in the world, 138 floors, where a group has gathered to celebrate the hubris of man, when all of a sudden faulty wiring is starting spontaneous fires throughout the building. And so we have let's see, there's so many people in this movie. Steve McQueen is our fire department chief, and he is trying to put it out with the help of Paul Newman's Doug Roberts, who is the architect who designed the building and is trying to save all of the swanky party guests while also get to the bottom of why this is happening and who should be held responsible. So Towering Inferno, huge set pieces, lots of stunts, lots of fires. It is an incredible showcase of all these things. 2 hours and 45 minutes worth of it. Very long. The third longest movie we've covered on this podcast.
Yeah.
So this is the Poseidon Inferno. This matchup was proposed by Meet Your Double Feature's own Thomas, and I would like to. It was you, Thomas, who proposed this one, right?
It was, yes. I tried to come up with, I wanted to participate. I know the program, so I tried to come up with a couple options, and we landed on this one in part because none of the four of us had seen either of these films previously.
Right.
Which kind of puts it more in line with Meet Your Double Feature programming, where it's not just what do you think about it, but what are your first top-level impressions about each one. I will say it put me in a funny position because I just identified from a vague overview, like, oh, it's two disaster movies from the 1970s with almost inverted premises, one about dealing with the ocean and the other dealing with a fire. And I was like, that's funny. It looks like there's some similarities here. I later learned they were like both produced by the same man, Irwin Allen, who was known as the master of disaster in the 70s. They both have John Williams doing the score. They both have a number of like just other overlaps in the crew. So these are sort of an anthology. There's no direct connection between the two stories, and I think they're each based off of novels, but in a way it kind of already has been a double feature all along. They're just two popular disaster movies from the time period before before a disaster movie meant a heavy VFX spectacle. These are like dangerous, practical effects heavy nightmares, as far as I can tell.
Yeah. The spillover is fascinating. It's like a rabbit hole to see just how much these movies overlap behind the scenes. My favorite overlap is actually editor Harold F. Kress, who edited all of the Poseidon Adventure and then co-edited the Towering Inferno with his son, Carl Kress, who went on to become a film editor. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, the family business. So
Yeah.
that was an interesting overlap. But yeah, also both based on books. You know, they both, I think they were both nominated for exactly 8 Academy Awards. So clearly this is a time when people took disasters a little bit more seriously.
Oh, yeah.
But let's get into our log lines. So Tristan, why don't you kick us off? What is your log line for this pairing? I want to hear it.
Right. Yeah, I always have fun with the log lines. I was thinking, me and Jeff were joking about like hubris and the humility of man while we were watching Towering Inferno, and it made me think of the guy, the famous, like when the Hindenburg came down and the guy was like, "Oh, the humanity," and all, you know, all that stuff. So, oh, the humility. We're all just sinners in the hands of an angry God in this 70s disaster flick. That God's name, some call him Poseidon, others call him greed. One thing's for certain, our only salvation is male beefcake. Lots of male beefcake in these movies.
Yeah, I'm glad you honed in on that. That is kind of the core similarity. It's like, which of these strong men do you want to come save you?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, these guys look like gorillas. They're barrel chested. Like, this is like my great grandma would be like, this is back when men were real men and everything. So it's, yeah, lots of fun.
Yeah. Tristan kept saying that when we were watching him. He was like, this is how it used to be. It's how it should still be.
So, like he was there.
Thomas, Frank, I would love to hear your collective log line for this matchup.
Oh yeah, we totally wrote this down beforehand. So yeah, we're talking about films about man-made creations spawning epic parties that ultimately end in disaster due to Frank. Not due to Frank.
I was thinking more along the lines of that old, I don't remember his name, but the guy who would do the old like trailer voices. You know, where you'd be like, in a world. There you go. Yeah. In a world where nothing goes right ever. And your boats sink and your buildings don't work.
Really, it's a movie about hiring bad contractors, mostly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you nailed it. It's about hubris from man trying to essentially conquer the elements in a way that is beyond our scope. I mean, I know Poseidon Adventure is less the character's fault. There's just like a tidal wave that they're not prepared for. But Towering Inferno is just a bunch of people going, that's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. And it's on fire.
Yeah.
I was laughing though at the room in Towering Inferno that like starts the fire, because it's just full of like cloth and paint and like gasoline. It's just like all the things necessary to start a fire were in this one room.
It's the fire room.
Yeah, you definitely get how like the disaster genre was ripe for parody, because it's one pan away from like a TNT container just off to the side that just goes off. Yeah, and I guess you could say Towering Inferno is pro OSHA, and the Poseidon Adventure is anti ocean.
Whoa! Wow.
Off to you.
That's great.
Someone take over.
I tried to incorporate a couple of the plot similarities in my log line here. So, a disaster resulting from corporate cutting of corners takes an ensemble from their lavish party to a series of perilous set pieces. Only the strong will escape from this man-made trap as it collapses in on itself.
Oh,
yeah.
Good.
So,
that's good.
That's exactly what we were going to say, actually. You just beat us to it.
You just copied us. Yeah.
I stole yours, which is why I let you go first.
A little bit of podcast espionage.
Yeah, so let's go ahead. Let's get into the meat of the discussion. I think, Tristan, you can kick us off with sort of your first question.
Callahan was testing a backup generator. There was a power surge and a systems failure.
How can that be?
It can't be, theoretically. Unless you've been screwing around with the electrical specifications.
That's being rather blunt, isn't it?
You betcha.
Running an unstable ship at full ahead is dangerous.
I'm sure.
Especially one as old as this.
I'm sure I don't have to remind you of my legal right to have you relieved of command. 3 other officers aboard this ship have their master's license. Now, order full ahead.
You irresponsible bastard.
Full ahead!
We talked about this before we started recording, and one of the things that stuck out to me, I watched The Towering Inferno first, and while like Paul Newman and Steve McQueen are sort of like your leading men in this film, I felt personally like the characterizations between most of the cast of The Towering Inferno were pretty flattened. A lot of the side characters are pretty one note, and even more thinly sketched than the ones in Poseidon Adventure, who do all have like sort of a one thing that they're kind of doing. To me, it recalled like watching some of the old like Soviet montage films, like Battleship Potemkin, anything by Eisenstein, where he is not focusing usually on like a central main character. He is telling a story about society as a whole. And me and Jeff were joking about how both these films are battles against a metaphor, basically. So I feel like the metaphor here of The Towering Inferno it's about society. The thing in the Poseidon Adventure is that I feel like Gene Hackman and Ernest Borgnine, they really stand out as the leads in those films. There's no cross-cutting between a bunch of different groups of people. It is mostly just about these two guys butting heads, and specifically Gene Hackman leading the way out of the disaster.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of interested. To me, it seems like Poseidon Adventure, even though it was made 2 years before The Towering Inferno, seems to call forward more to like the traditional, like almost like hero's journey way of storytelling that Hollywood has become so adept at. There is a leading person who is the main character who is leading our heroes to safety. Whereas The Towering Inferno is more about, we're a collective, we're all working together to get as many people out of here as possible. Literally, we're all in this together kind of thing. So I was just kind of curious to kind of jump off from that point and see, is there something here that is evocative about the different way that Towering Inferno is telling its story? Because like a big criticism of this movie when it came out, especially by like Pauline Kael, who I read her review before jumping on here, she was like, these characters are so thinly sketched. And I think Gene Siskel was like, they're cardboard. That's why you want to see them burn up in the Inferno.
Ooh, that's harsh.
Yeah.
Does the characterizations, does it work in favor of Towering Inferno? Does it work against Poseidon Adventure? I'm curious to know your all's opinions on that.
I mean, I feel like Poseidon Adventure makes me laugh because they gave Gene Hackman his flock. I mean, he's literally a reverend trying to lead these people out. And they're like, what is every vulnerable type of person we could put in this party? It's like women, children, the elderly, and an injured man makes up almost the entire group. And so it is very much his story to lead. And like you said, Kristen, the conflict with Ernest Borgnine, who sort of argues against Hackman as if he's arguing against God himself. Like, he has lines towards the end when things are looking worse off where he's like, I almost believed in you. Like, I almost bought into, and he's talking in the broader sense of like religious faith, like as my savior in these difficult times. So it's definitely preachier than Towering Inferno. Like you could say the characters are more fleshed out, but they're also more allegorical. Like Towering Inferno probably could have benefited from like narrowing its focus more than it did and maybe cutting like 30 minutes off the movie too. But it ultimately makes the environment the character, and I don't think suffers terribly, especially in the context of when it was released. I mean, I feel like at the time, 1974, it was like a crazy impressive spectacle, because it still is now. Like, I couldn't believe the degree to which they lit all of their sets on fire for 3 hours straight. Like, that's the buy-in, is like come to the theater and hang out for a while and just watch this set piece that goes on forever. Whereas I think Towering or Poseidon Adventure is more of like a drama. Like, you could do Poseidon Adventure as like a stage play.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. To me, it almost like that's almost the main takeaway and the difference between the two films for me is like Poseidon Adventure almost felt, like you said, like a stage play, or like it read like a fable in a sense, like with these characters, whereas Towering Inferno was very much like a spectacle of filmmaking, honestly. And like how it was executed and to the level at which it was executed in that film. So whereas like the characters were not as central to the experience as they were in Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah, I was thinking like the tonality, especially of the Poseidon Adventure at first, is like really goofy. You've got Ernest Borgnine, and his relationship with his wife is so funny because they're so catty with one another. He's like yelling at her from outside the bathroom, and she's like, "You don't have to yell. And he starts lowering his voice, and she's like, "I heard you." Like it's this great kind of chemistry that they have with one another. And I was thinking, like, then the ship flips, and people are dying, like right in front of your eyes. And I'm like, what an extreme contrast between these like goofy characters and this really dour tone it's taking. Why is it doing that? And to me, like, if you are going to be juggling a large ensemble, the way that you make me care about those characters is like, I'm only going to get to know them so much. Just make me laugh. Like, have them make me laugh. And they did. I thought they were funny and entertaining, and they were a colorful group, versus the Towering Inferno, which is, I do think the characters take more of a side.
Yes.
Place. Like, what's Paul Newman's arc? What's his arc?
Yeah, his arc is that he was right the entire time. And that's about it.
Yeah.
No, I think, and I think I said this to you, Jeff. The thing that stuck out to me about Poseidon Adventure was like, these people are written like characters. They all, like I said, they have like a sort of a defining trait, whether it be injured man or woman who's so traumatized that she can't do anything without the help of another person.
Mm-hmm.
And the people in Towering Inferno, with maybe a few exceptions, you do have OJ there who like saves a cat. That's like kind of that felt like a cartoon thing to me. That felt like a Roland Emmerich, like, oh, save the dog, like, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
With the exception of a couple characters, it really felt like they were just people. Like there was more of a realism there, because like in an actual disaster scenario, I think most people are just people, like going through what they're going. They don't emerge as characters.
Right.
And so that's a big difference to me. Something else you all were mentioning, and I know you guys are big Star Trek fans, and I'm so excited because Jeff is not a Trek fan, so I get to maybe talk a little bit of Trek. I felt like Poseidon Adventure reminded me a lot of like a Star Trek episode, like a bottle episode or something.
Yeah.
I think there was a TNG episode called Disaster. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Where like the Enterprise loses like all power.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, and
Yes.
I'm glad you brought this up. Star Trek, that is. But yeah, I was actually thinking, I thought you were going more towards the Towering Inferno, because that film, to me, given that it wasn't as focused on the characters, but it was in the way that it was in their like competency. I was really interested in seeing these like firefighters out there like doing their job, and these people working together, because that's often how I've heard like Star Trek talked about, is like, it's, you know, they're going on these adventures and such, but at the end of the day it's really just people like doing their jobs and like working together, and like people have called it like competency porn, and
Yes.
that is sort of how I felt like Towering Inferno like was, and that was actually one of the most engaging things about it to me. But I do also agree with what you're saying, because with the Poseidon Adventure, I feel like that's a great like bottle episode premise, and I've actually seen it adapted in ways that I hadn't realized before. I mentioned this to Thomas off air, but I was like, you know, this is just like an episode of the Pokemon anime series, actually, where Poke gets flipped upside down, and he was like, yeah, no, that's the Poseidon Adventure. That's what they were doing. And I was like, oh, really? Okay, yeah, that came first, I guess.
I knew several of the plot beats of Poseidon Adventure before they happened, because there was like an episode of The Simpsons that did the whole thing. Like there's a bit towards the end where they have to swim through this channel in order to get to the next room that's like safe to be in. And I was like, oh, yeah. Some like latent memory in my brain was just pulling up Simpsons quotes. And I was like, that's not helping. This is a serious movie.
I just watched my first Simpsons episode last night, actually. So
Yeah.
Wow.
I showed him some Simpsons after Towering Inferno. I don't know why we went in that direction, but
Yeah, I showed Jeff a Big Bang Theory episode, then he showed me a Simpsons episode. So
one of us was the clear winner.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that was a mean thing for you to do.
Yeah, it was pretty awful, actually.
The joke is they're nerds. That's the only joke.
Bazinga.
Hey, the show's over. You guys could take that, you know. You could be the new Bazinga guys.
That's true. It's up for grabs.
Got to keep it alive. Keep the spirit of it alive.
Resolve to let God know that you have the guts and the will to do it alone. Resolve to fight for yourselves and for others and for those you love. And that part of God within you will be fighting with you all the way.
Didn't you hear what my father said? We can't get out that way.
Are you coming? Or not?
No.
If you have to wait for permission to save your own life, go ahead. I'm getting out.
Roger, you...
let's get into like the whole disaster genre a little bit more. I know we wanted to talk more so about that because it's not one that I'm that familiar with. And we were talking a little bit about Roland Emmerich off mic, and especially when we were watching The Towering Inferno.
Right.
Thomas, you had some good points too about disaster as a whole, as a quote unquote genre.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've been talking about how the plot structure in these two movies is almost flipped past a certain point when the action breaks out, following either one cast of characters, kind of A to B, or telling like multi-various plot threads throughout. So I was kind of wondering out loud, like, what makes these part of the same genre? Because a disaster film is a genre in a very unofficial way. And I feel like for the time here in the 70s, it was kind of just about like massive spectacles of stunt work and just like physicality. I can't believe how much of the Poseidon adventure is just these poor actors trying to like heave themselves up upside down stairwells and through what it looked like they almost drowned a child making that movie. There's a scene where Gene Hackman is saving like the little boy, and they were just filling that room with water. And I was like, this is crazy. This is not, you would never see this now. Whereas everything I grew up with was Roland Emmerich stuff. It was like VFX spectacle filmmaking that in comparison feels so detached. Like there's no like visceral quality to what's happening in Independence Day. They blow up the White House, but I'm like, good one. Whereas everything in this was like genuinely alarming.
Yeah, and
good one.
I was reading too that a lot of the actors, Gene Hackman for sure, were doing their own stunts, and that the film was actually filmed in chronological order, which is not often the case, as to like essentially like get the actors beat up as they were going through this experience, so that by the time they were filming the final scenes of the film, they had already been through all that. Because I was thinking of that exact same scene that you mentioned, Thomas, where Gene Hackman's like going through the water, and that was one of my notes. Is like, man, Gene Hackman is really going through it for this movie.
Yeah, or like even in Towering Inferno, you have Paul Newman just doing like pull-ups. He has to dangle off of like a railing that's gone full vertical, and I couldn't believe they held on a shot of the actual guy like just climbing his way back up, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, it's when men used to be men, so
yeah.
That's what you had to do.
Now, I'm dead instantly in either of these scenarios.
Oh, yeah.
Side adventure, I'm going to stay in the ballroom. I'll get flooded with everybody else.
Right.
It's like the alternative is physical exertion. No.
It reminded me of movies like Roar that like came out like shortly after.
It pushed it a little too far.
And how Roar was like such a disaster behind the scenes. And I was just like, at any moment, any of these movies could have turned into a real disaster, because you can tell they're there with the fire. There's so many people who are like on fire in the Towering Inferno, stuntmen and everything. And I'm just like, it scares me, like it's a scary experience to watch. That goes back to the weightlessness of like a contemporary disaster film. Like, I don't know if you guys saw Moonfall, but speaking of literal weightlessness, like that movie is like, it doesn't feel, it never feels real. It always feels like they're just on a set and there's just a green screen around them or like a volume or whatever.
Right.
And so, yeah, lost art for sure. It's a shame.
I think like these movies, I mean, when I was reading about them and seeing how decorated they were, I mean, they weren't just nominated, they won multiple Academy Awards. Towering Inferno was up for Best Picture.
Yep.
It's like what you were saying, Frank, with like their filmmaking showcases. And I think awards always wanted to show off like, why is this style of movie like really, why is it pushing the envelope at the time? It's like how F1 is nominated for a lot of awards this year. F1 is like that token. These are new filmmaking techniques where like attaching the camera to the car.
Avatar is one of those.
Yeah, Avatar. And we're actually putting the actors in the cars and everything. It's that old school kind of Tom Cruise is still championing this.
Goes back to Buster Keaton. You know, it goes back to Chaplin and all those guys, all the special effects wizards. Because I mean, that special effects really are one of those things that makes a movie, like a distinct medium compared to like, a novel and these are based on novels. But and I told you when the Towering Inferno started, like there was a lot of kind of like getting to places, talking to people. I was like, okay, I can see how this is a novel. And then once the action starts, I think Thomas, you said earlier, like, it has to be a movie. Like, there's no way that the intensity of it, the action of it, could be communicated any other way than in a film. And they do it effectively, I think.
It's impressive to me how they keep ratcheting the intensity up, given that one of the first things that happens when the fire breaks out is it Robert Wagner who has that whole scene where he's like, I ran the mile in in 40 seconds, I'm going to run through this flaming room and get to safety. And then he like borderline winks at the camera, gets 6 inches out the door and bursts into flames and dies. And I was like, okay, that's bordering on being really funny, but also it sets the tone immediately because the like helpless woman he was trying to save dies soon after and falls out a window. Like the action starts there. As soon as the fire gets serious, it's like people are dying. And I'm impressed that they were able to maintain that level of anxiety throughout, given that like how much more on fire can a person get?
Well, this kind of goes back to what I was saying about the Poseidon adventure. Like, I feel like if you had that character in the Poseidon adventure, who's like that main, who has like main character syndrome, like, I'm going to run through the fire, get us out of here, we're going to bring help. That's what he would do. But like in a movie like The Towering Inferno, where they have extras to burn, they're like, we're going to set this guy up as an example. He puts like what, like a wet towel around him, and like immediately he must have put like gasoline on that towel or something, because he lit up like nothing else.
It's like the first obstacle.
Yeah, he touches like a little dresser that's like has a little candle on it, and he just goes. It's awesome.
Which there's all these subtle details too, like in the scenes in the tower where there is not a raging fire, there's always little candles that are in frame that I'm just like, oh, you put that there on purpose, didn't you?
Always aware of the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, they even ask at one point, I think it's that same scene before Wagner dies, they ask like, did you like not put a cigarette out? Like there's this kind of casual nature of just like, maybe we lit a small manageable fire, and then they like open the door and like the entire floor they're on is engulfed. It's so close to being funny, but because of that, like, and I think the Roland Emmerich version of this would be really funny, but I think that the 70s version, you're like, oh gosh, they actually were just standing next to lit flames for all of these scenes, and that kind of pulls you back down into being like, no, that's upsetting. Like I'm still genuinely anxious about this.
Filmmaking used to be dangerous, man. You had to put your life on the line in front of that camera.
Yeah, men were men and extras were
dead.
Expendable.
That scene is terrible. That's the scariest scene, I think, in both of these movies. It's like you just have two characters and they both die brutal deaths, and that's their purpose in the narrative.
Yeah,
it's just to die.
That just sets up. It's like anybody can go, and you're a little on edge because you generally care about people, but because they're not like characters, you're not identifying with them as strongly as you would like Gene Hackman in Poseidon Adventure.
I think it's interesting. We're talking about how filmmaking techniques have changed, and yet the Poseidon Adventure has been remade into 2006's Poseidon. And we were talking about that one Dwayne Johnson movie, Skyscraper or whatever. I haven't seen it, but it's like, there's got to be some parallels there.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, but it's like you were saying, Thomas, like if Roland Emmerich made these movies today, they'd be tongue-in-cheek, there'd be some humor in them. The save the cat thing, they would have made that a whole drawn-out plot line instead of just like, oh, OJ walks into a room, grabs a cat, you don't see him again for 2 hours until the end of the movie, and then he's like, oh, here's your cat, Fred Astaire. Nowadays, like with Skyscraper and I never did see Poseidon. Is it kind of like more like funny, do you feel?
I don't think it's necessarily more funny. It's like I did get some of the beats. It was like that Simpsons episode you were talking about, Thomas. It's like I kind of had a feeling for who was going to make it, who wasn't, based on 2006's Poseidon, which my girlfriend really enjoys. I think she watched Poseidon Adventure with me. I think she still enjoys the 2006 Poseidon more.
She wanted more Fergie.
It's got Fergie. Yeah.
Well, he didn't say that.
Wait, hold on.
And Kurt Russell, too, honestly.
Oh, and Kurt Russell. All right, well, now I got to watch this.
Yes. My two favorites.
Together at
it's
last.
so funny. You've got Fergie, who's like that time musician. Like, that's the music that was coming out. And then you've got like the Joni Mitchell kind of Karen Carpenter character in the Poseidon Adventure who's singing about peace and love. And it's like, yeah, we can date these movies. Even the wallpaper in the Towering Inferno.
V and Jeff, like so many times watching these movies, he was like, the 70s called. Like they want their wallpaper back. Every time someone was on a phone, Jeff was like, the 70s called. Like, it was great.
It's too easy.
It was great.
It was too easy. Yeah. But those movies, I mean, the 2006 Poseidon, like it's not, people don't talk about that movie. I mean, it doesn't have the staying power of something like the Poseidon Adventure has.
That's true. Yeah.
It's
because it doesn't have adventure in the title. Do you guys think that the title for a Poseidon Adventure is like really stupid? Because I feel like I'm good with the Poseidon part, but the adventure part, like I said, it makes it sound like a theme park ride, but like a children's theme park ride. Like it needs to be like the Poseidon disaster, the Poseidon like cataclysm or something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
This makes it sound more fun than it actually
The
is.
whimsical
That's true.
story.
Poseidon Adventure is a bummer because it's not, like you said, it doesn't really give you much relief. I think the characters are a little more upbeat, but that almost makes
Yeah.
it worse because they get through, I think, the whole second act only losing like one person from their group. And it feels abrupt and sad, but it's like, okay, it was the injured guy. We all knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But then in the last like 30 minutes, it's just half the team's out. We get a team wipe of just people you thought would probably make it through the movie.
Yeah.
Is it
Old
Shelley? Shelley Winters, I think? Is that
Shelley
the actress
Winters.
for
Yeah.
that? Her scene in that where she swims to go save Gene Hackman was one of the most like, in two films full of like dangerous looking stunts, that was like one of the most graceful pieces of like filmmaking I've seen in a movie
Yeah.
like this, where I was like, this is genuinely like impressive to watch just from an athleticism perspective. And then she makes it out as a heart attack. And I was like, oh, come on.
That was upsetting. That was another behind the scenes element that I read, though, was that originally that scene was supposed to play out the other way, where she was supposed to go in first, and then Gene Hackman was going to go in and save her. But then Gene Hackman was actually the one that suggested flipping it. I'm like, yeah, of course, that works so much better
Oh my
when you do it the
gosh.
other way.
Yeah, it
Thank
fits both
God.
characters better that he would not let someone take on, because he takes responsibility, Gene Hackman's character, for the entire group. Like, anybody going down is his fault in his mind because he's like the champion of God in this situation, and he's so confident
Yeah.
that thematically in Poseidon Adventure, though, his whole point, like, he makes it textual. He says right at the beginning, he's like, prayer means nothing by itself. God gave you the strength to help yourself out of danger. And that gets rewarded constantly throughout the movie, which is what makes it more upsetting when someone has to help him and dies in the process. It also amusingly gets inverted briefly in Towering Inferno because there's the son-in-law character in that one who's like the most outright
man.
antagonist in either of these movies. Like, this whole fire is his fault
Yeah.
specifically. They're like, Roger, you lit the building on fire.
You killed a lot of people, Roger.
Yeah. It's like the Charlie the Unicorn thing.
Yeah.
That kills people. But he, at one point, tries to echo Hackman. He, like, there's a burned out stairwell, and they're like, we can't get out that way. And he says something where he's like, if you're going to wait around for permission to save your own life, like, then I can't help you. And then he rushes out and immediately almost dies. And I was like, that's so funny. He tried to
and then
use
just has
the
to like
theme.
whimper back. Like,
It's back. I couldn't believe that he made it back in after that.
me
was like,
neither. I thought he was
"Aw."
done for. But
Roger.
I was great. He was one of my favorite characters because he was so slimy, like, and just never redeemed himself the entire time. He just kept making things worse throughout the entire film.
Yeah, I love that you're pointing out the similarities, Thomas, because I actually made a note of like the inversion that's happening between him and Reverend Scott in the Poseidon Adventure. Because Reverend Scott has an arc that is complete when he sacrifices himself for the meek, essentially, because he's preaching strength. He says God favors the strong. His arc is over when he gives his life to make sure that his flock is guided to safety. So versus this son-in-law character who similarly dangles in a perilous scenario and meets his demise, but when he's trying to save his own skin, and everybody's trying to stop him because he's a selfish prick, and he loses rescue, like the little dolly they have hooked up, like completely capsizes after he tries to save himself.
They're like rats on a sinking ship, you know, kind of mirroring the Poseidon Adventure. They all pile onto this one chair dolly that's like on this tether that stretches from like the top of the skyscraper to a nearby building, which is like one of my favorite set pieces in the movie, until they literally pull an elevator off the side of a building with a helicopter. And like,
that helicopter had to be like on cocaine. That was not big enough.
No,
to
because the elevator was made out of like styrofoam and balsa wood, because it was just like the flimsiest material ever. Whatever it was super flammable. But yeah, no, I love that guy just gets his. He just like falls off the building because he was selfish and he thought that he was better than everybody else.
You almost suckered me in! I started to believe in your promises that we had a chance! What chance? You took from me the only thing I ever loved in the whole world!
You know, we were lucky tonight. Body count's less than 200. You know, one of these days, you're gonna kill 10,000 in one of these fire traps. And I'm gonna keep eating smoke and bringing out bodies until somebody asks us how to build them.
Towering Inferno reaches a point where it stalls arguably once we get everybody up to the promenade and like Paul Newman's there with everyone else, where we still have like an hour left and it's just mostly dialogue-free scenes of people trying to slowly free themselves. But I was talking with my wife about it while watching it because they make a point, much like in like Titanic, of doing the whole women and children first thing up until Roger, the son-in-law, who still does wait for all the women and children to leave. Even though he is like our antagonist in the story, he is selfish. He still can't suffer the social defeat of trying to cut in front of women to escape. Which I thought was so funny because I'm like, honestly, I kind of believe that is how that would play out. Like this social obligation overrides your own like self-preservation. You're like, sure, I don't want to burn to death, but I can't be a jerk about it.
It's back when men were men, you know.
Men were men and they died in fires.
even the bad men, they still had some chivalry going on. So yeah,
there's that elitist angle to his antagonism as well. You know, both of these movies, there's a fancy soiree that is sort of like at the end of the first act that gets interrupted by what's going on. And I think, Tristan, when we were watching the Poseidon Adventure, you were talking a little bit about like, well, you had to bring up Reaganism, of course.
Oh, Ronald Reagan, my favorite.
My other favorite actor.
Where was he during this? This group is like, you know, when the survivors in the Poseidon Adventure encounter a larger group of survivors that are going to the bow, the preacher is determined. He's like, you guys are going the wrong way. Follow me instead, because I know where I'm going.
Yeah, this will probably get into like a broader discussion about like the themes of these movies, because me and Jeff kept joking again. We're just jokers, you know. We like to have fun. We were just like joking how like the firefighters were going in. It's like, guys, don't worry, you're not gonna be able to stop the fire. You're fighting a metaphor, so like don't stress about it.
You got no chance.
Yeah, both these films are highly metaphorical. Poseidon Adventure is very much like a Titanic story. They're one moment away from just being like, it's an unsinkable ship. It's so big and everything. Never quite goes that way, but once it actually flips, there is like this I feel like it's like I think Thomas, you were saying it was like an allegory. There's like a social cleavage in the middle of this film where you have like most of the people stay behind in the ballroom and get swept up and get killed
immediately.
Yeah, literally immediately. Like Gene Hackman gets to gloat about it. Basically.
He looks like he has a big red button. He's like, as soon as we leave, I'm hitting the button and I'm going to flood this room.
He's like, who knows what could happen?
It's great. It's great. And then Gene Hackman, he's battling against Ernest Borgnine, who's like, f you, like I don't believe anything that you tell me, and how do you know where to go and all this stuff. And he's like putting down the little kid who's like, you know, super into boats and stuff like that. And so there's like this I don't know, this is 70s. Watergate I think started in 1972, goes into like all the way I think up to 74. So in Vietnam, we're coming out of the unrest of the civil rights era. Definitely like a new wave of like cynicism in the country, in authority, leadership in general. You're starting to see a resurgence in evangelical Christianity, which really picks up into the 80s. And so I feel like there's like this we're going the wrong way kind of thing going on in Poseidon Adventure. Or like morally, we need a leader who can take us to the finish line and who eventually does give his life for it, Christ-like in a way, I think. You look at the Towering Inferno, and it definitely seems to me like it is more of a it's something that probably resonates more with people nowadays, where it's like there's a lot of anti-capitalism movies that are like super popular right now. A lot of movies that go against like, hey, don't cut corners, don't be greedy, don't try to think about the bottom line, think about the human being. And then the stepson character in the Towering Inferno is literally the guy who's like, just cut some corners to save some money, you know, who cares if there's some fires. And it's a movie about like how a system can fall apart because of bad actors. You feel like, in a sense, like the main character, one of the main characters, Paul Newman, is basically like a founding father, like in a sense. He built this building, he built this great glass tower. He's an architect of this whole system. It's supposed to stand for 1,000 years, you know, and everything. He's like, but you f***ed it up. You specifically, slimy stepson, who cut all these corners. I love, so you do have this like kind of social commentary aspect going on between these two films. The Reagan thing, that was sort of tongue in cheek, because, you know, obviously it's before Reagan gets into the political aisle, but you do see how, again, this goes back to my first point. I really think that the Poseidon Adventure feels like a more modern movie to me, even though it is a little bit older, because it does center more on the character aspects. You see more of like a centrality, a focus on individual people, exceptional individuals, which is a big tenet of like Americans' like worldview of themselves. They're the exceptional individuals. One man can make a difference. One man can rise above everything. Whereas you look at a movie like The Towering Inferno, and it feels like an older sort of social collective, like a consciousness kind of thing going on, where we all have to work together. And one bad apple can kind of ruin the bunch, but let's throw him out the building and baptize this thing in 1 million gallons of water, and we'll make it out all right. Only 200 people die, so
Yeah.
and
So
we'll
happy
build this
about
thing.
that.
We'll build this thing right the next time. I love that the firefighter's like, ask me how to build it next time, and he's like, okay, how would you build it? He's like, get back to me tomorrow. He's like, it was rhetorical. It was rhetorical, dude.
But he has that dangling quote too, where he says, body count's less than 200, but one of these days they're going to kill 10,000.
Yeah,
That was ominous. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, especially because the novel, or one of the two novels that was adapted into Towering Inferno, I was wondering if it was based on some sort of like actual skyscraper fire disaster, but the author was just inspired by the building of the World Trade Center, like in
Oh,
the
man.
70s, because it was
Mhm.
relatively, I think construction finished in 72, 73. And so that person was just imagining a situation where like a fire would break out.
Oh
And I
my
was like,
god.
again, that's a bummer. But also interesting in that it was not a direct response to an actual fire. It was more just like, theoretically, this is a bad idea. And they showed you why. I mean, they say out loud early in Towering Inferno, like, a fire above 7 stories high, we genuinely can't address normally. We can't shoot at that from the ground. Like, it is oddly, goes back to almost being allegorical in a more Poseidon adventure-esque way, because it's literally that they've like gone too close to the sun and burned up.
Yes. It's a Tower of Babel. That's what it is all over again. Yeah. Don't get too close to the sun kind of thing. Icarus. Jeff, we did an episode on Independence Day and War of the Worlds. That was our first Roland Emmerich matchup. We've done 2, which is weird.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Sorry. We've done 2. Independence Day, like we were talking about how that's a pre 9/11 disaster film. It's also an invasion film, but disaster plays a big role in the imagery, the iconography of Independence Day. There was a real appetite to see things get blown up, and then War of the Worlds comes out after 9/11. Feels very much like a response to that disaster. There are no famous landmarks that get blown up in like Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds, because people had lost their appetite for it post 9/11. The disaster genre, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, lost a lot of steam in the aftermath of a real world disaster like 9/11. And watching Towering Inferno, you're right. It's ominous. It's haunting to see imagery that you recognize from like newsreels now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And in a way, yeah, it does feel more prescient. Whereas Poseidon Adventure is calling back to something like the Titanic.
Poseidon Adventure feels more, a lot of its sets, I mean, across the board, both movies, the set design is immaculate. I mean, some of
Yes.
the best constructed sets I've ever seen. I'm particularly fond of the ones in the Poseidon Adventure because it's like, you just flip it upside down. And that actually does so much for it for some reason. It's
Yes.
so cool. But a lot of those sets are like, they are externalizing more. They can be a little bit more like, it's not just a fire. There's fire in it on water, oil fires, but there's also like a scene where Reverend Scott like opens a hatch to go to the engine room and just like all this oil, black oil just falls out of it and he crawls into it and it's like that. And it's just dripping after he disappears. And it's like, that's a descent into
The hell?
something metaphysical.
Yeah.
Is kind of what I get from it.
Yeah, I think with a maybe a different director under the helms of these films, because I don't really recognize the names. I don't know what else these guys have done. I would be interested to see them in the hands of somebody maybe, I don't know, who could tap into more of those sort of metaphysical elements, because there is a lot of metaphor going on here. But they never do get too hoity-toity with it. I mean, there's some preachiness with like the regulations in Towering Inferno. There's some preachiness with like the faith aspect and Poseidon Adventure, but they keep it pretty, work a day. They keep it pretty blue collar, everyman kind of stuff, which I do appreciate. I do think there's a place for that.
Yeah, totally. I think that's almost what separates these older disaster films from like you were mentioning, Thomas, almost like what kind of replaces them now is those action like superhero films and stuff like that. And I feel like that ties into like what Gene Hackman's character is saying, because I've heard people talk about like these modern films where it's like if you're an everyday person in one of these situations, you just have to wait for like Superman to come and save you or throw your car at the bad guy for some reason. But like in these older films, like it's like, you have to help yourself. And it's like, as an audience member, you can put yourself in that situation. It's like if there's danger or something, it's like you were saying, Tristan, men used to be men. Like you just had to do it yourself, figure it out. Like, and because when I was watching Towering Inferno early on, I was like, oh man, this is kind of reminding me of Die Hard a little bit, like visually, especially. I was like, this is definitely giving like Die Hard vibes. And then I found out afterwards that like the writer of the novel that Die Hard was adapted from was inspired directly from this film. So there is sort of like a DNA there between them. But I mean, Die Hard's a perfect example where it's like, that's just one guy with no shoes against a bunch of terrorists, and it's just like it's like you can see yourself in that situation, whereas in these modern films, like you can't really, you're not like Superman. So I think it's interesting, and like I said, kind of ties in with what Gene Hackman's character was preaching in that movie.
Yeah, it is interesting the way the disaster genre has been folded into the superhero genre, and how, I don't know, I feel like in some ways we're supposed to be placated by the superheroes who come in, who swoop down and save us, and maybe not see ourselves in them necessarily, but feel like someone, there's some comfort there. It's a comfort kind of thing.
Look, all we have to do is give all of our support and resources to these big, strong men with a lot of money and power, because they know what's best for us. And the Superman says it trickles down.
It all trickled down, yeah.
Oh no, I joked to Jeff about the Towering Inferno with the water coming. I was like, maybe it's a metaphor for trickle down economics.
I don't think that would work, by the way. This might be jumping ahead, but when I got to the end of Towering Inferno, I'm like, I don't think this would actually put out all these fires. But no, I guess it does. It just worked at the end.
I was surprised by that, because I could not foresee how they were going to resolve that movie. Like, they went through so many stages of realistic, like, escape routes, and I was impressed that they got through so many iterations. But like, maybe we'll send a helicopter up to the roof. Blew up. Well, maybe we'll put them on this ski lift to get to the other building. Crashed. And I was like, what's left? Are they all just going to die? But then, they were like, no, we'll just blow the roof, I guess.
It kind of feels like if you had all that water there the whole time, like that's kind of like the first place my mind would go to put out a fire on like the 112th floor.
You have millions of gallons of water above all the fire that you're trying to fight, but you can't. Yeah, blow the water. You're right, it probably wouldn't work, but it's interesting. Jeff, you were talking like the sets, Jeff, and like there's like abstract spaces in the Towering Inferno. There's like that one like shaft that's just like pipes. And I was like, they're in the Death Star. Like, it's just like this weird space. And then they like go up to like the room where they have these giant
tanks.
Yeah, tanks of water, which like, and listen, I'm not a building manager. I've barely even been up in a skyscraper. I'm from West Virginia. I'm a hick. So like, I don't know. Maybe they do have those things up there, but gigantic water tanks just at the very top of a building is great.
I know there's a building in Chicago. If you're ever in Chicago, there's an architecture tour that you can take where you go on a boat and you ride down the river and they talk about the buildings. And there's at least one that I know does have a giant water tank, but it's actually only used to like prevent the building from like falling over. Like, it's this dynamic weight shifting thing where I don't remember what building it is, but it's narrower at the bottom than at the top. And they were explaining that like having this kind of like water physics aspect up at the top of the whole structure allows it to like react to like wind better and not slowly erode the like supports inside the building. So if that building catches fire, blow the roof. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it'll work. Awesome. Obviously, we got to test that theory.
Yeah. And then it'll fall down, which is worse. But
yeah, the building, it's still standing at the end of the Towering Inferno.
Yeah, it is.
I wonder what they're going to do with that. They've got to do some serious like damage control after that.
Maybe they just ought to leave it the way it is. Kind of shrine to all the bullshit in the world.
The exceptional individual. If you guys put yourself in one of these scenarios, which one would you put yourself in?
Oh, like most survivable? I am that lady from Poseidon Adventure who cannot swim. So I would be pretty uncertain about that one. I also can't survive being on fire, though, so it kind of evens out. I'm going to say Towering Inferno, because I wouldn't have been invited to the party in the first place. And so I'd be on one of those lower floors, and I would just find my good friend O.J. Simpson, and I would say, can we get out of here?
Oh, yeah. He saves you. You're the cat in this.
I'm the cat.
Actually.
Just take me away.
I think I would have to go with Towering Inferno. I'm like kind of terrified of the ocean that way.
Me too. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, I'm going Towering Inferno.
God. I don't. They're both so awful. Yeah, I don't want to drown, but I also don't want to burn to death. I feel like maybe if I died of smoke inhalation, that might be the best way to go.
That seems like one of the worst ways to go.
Is that one of the worst ways to go? Can someone chime in on that? Can some comment down below?
Who's died of smoke?
Yeah. Someone
I like we're all assuming we're gonna die. Like none of us assumed we're actually gonna make it out of this situation. Like we're just thinking about the worst ways it could end.
As soon as Gene Hackman starts climbing that Christmas tree, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, well, you stayed in the ballroom, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah. Tag yourself across these two movies. Can't do it. Too hard. Next question.
Yeah.
Men were men. They're not anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
We're towards the end of the show. I think we want to do, before we answer our hard ticket question, a little residual Q&A for any lingering questions, any lingering thoughts we still have about these two movies. Does anybody have something off the top of their head?
I do. Did the mom die? Like the deaf woman with the two children, like they carried her out of that room, but then she was not seen again. And those kids weren't seen again at the end of the film either. There wasn't really a resolution like after I think they got them out of that helicopter elevator thing. And because I believe O.J. Simpson was the one that pulled her out of there and he saved the cat. And I was like, what? Where's the mom? Are we not going to follow up on that? Like, I don't know if that character died or not. I was genuinely confused about that.
She was shown on like a gurney at some point, but was like completely out. Yeah. So I don't know if it's supposed to be ambiguous. I would assume she was alive because they would have probably followed up on it more clearly. But I don't know. Maybe it was lost in the editing.
That's what I was thinking too. I'm like, this seems like an editing floor kind of scenario where it just wasn't relevant enough. But I was asking that question at the end of the movie.
Well, Towering Inferno definitely needs a little more runtime, so we know what happened to everybody.
Yeah, totally.
We need a Return of the King epilogue where we see everything that happened.
Oh my God. Sterling Siliphant is the writer shared between these two movies. Sole writer on Towering Inferno, co-writer on Poseidon Adventure. I think in the 2 years between these two movies, he read the screenwriting book, Save the Cat, and just took it at face value.
He just read the title,
Read the title, didn't read the book.
I have a question. Is anyone else frustrated that O.J. Simpson is actually a decent actor? Like,
he really is actually. Yeah.
Frank and I, because for people who only know him as a murderer, O.J. Simpson was a football player. He was a very celebrated running back who made the same jump to the silver screen that people like Shaquille O'Neal did, which Frank and I just got done talking about how abysmal that performance is. Or like Michael Jordan in Space Jam. Like they can be likable, but none of them are even remotely competent actors. O.J. Simpson, I'd never seen him in a movie. And not only was he relatively likable as his security guard character, he delivered his lines effectively. He was like a secondary protagonist with Paul Newman for like the whole first half of the story, which makes it weirder that he disappeared. But by the end, I was like, dang it, he got me. The juice is loose.
He does. Oh my God, the juice is loose. Yeah. He does some great physical comedy in the Naked Gun movies for sure. But no, I'd never really seen him act in this way. But he is definitely a character you could completely cut out of the movie, though, and it would be exactly the same.
Wow, we have two Naked Gun cast members. We have we have OJ in Towering Inferno and Leslie Nielsen in Poseidon.
Who we need to talk more about how he is almost like
he's just doing like the character from Airplane, basically.
Yeah, he bears a lot of responsibility for the initial death of the disaster genre.
That's true,
for sure.
Yeah.
He gets that little line where they're like, "The tidal wave is coming towards us. Happy New Year, by the way." Like he gets a little quip in there, which I thought was great.
Yeah, it's super dry. It's awesome.
This wasn't Airplane originally an actual disaster movie that was made into a spoof that uses like a bunch of the same beats?
Yeah, it's called 0 Hour, I think, is what the original film is called. I think there was one called Airplane, but I think Airplane's beats are taken from 0 Hour. And they just pair. I mean, it's like we've been talking about. Like these movies are so close to being comedies. You just do a little tweak and they become very funny. It was going to happen. You know, it's like with the Westerns with, Blazing Saddles and stuff. Like it had to happen. And once it did, they were never the same again.
I've got a question for you guys because to me, it's like back in the 70s, people were more impressed with the industrialization of like urban places, which is why the tower itself is such an interesting setting. It does all these things. It's a feat of human ingenuity. But now I'm watching it, it's like, okay, there's a disaster on a boat. That's the Poseidon Adventure. There's a disaster in a building. That's the Towering Inferno. Like you can boil it down to like these mundane components. I'm wondering, like, if you could see a disaster movie about something mundane, what would it be? I was thinking, like, what about like a road? What if there's like
A disaster
a
movie.
pothole, like a really bad pothole,
Yeah.
and there's a hole, like you got to call in the National Guard or
Oh my
something
god!
like
Yeah,
that.
you could set that in West Virginia.
Yeah, you
'cause they're
can.
awful.
A mundane disaster scenario that hasn't been done. You know, like we've covered all the big ones: an airplane, a boat,
Segway.
Twister.
You have a Segway
On a
disaster?
Segway?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm picturing like a disaster movie in a bathroom, like maybe one of those like campsite like portable toilets. You're like stuck inside
Ooh.
one, but it's like
Ooh.
it's being carried along like the back of a truck or something.
It's an ensemble
my
cast,
God.
of course.
It's like 127 hours, but in a
In a bathroom.
in a
yeah.
in a portable.
It's that Dumb and Dumber sketch, just like stretched to feature length. He's
Yeah.
just getting shit everywhere.
I was talking to Tristan about what would be the worst room to be in when the boat turns upside down in the Poseidon Adventure. I think the kitchen would be pretty bad, but I think the bathroom would actually be the last place I'd want to be, especially if I'm using it.
Why is that, Jeff?
It goes back in, man.
What goes back in? What do you mean?
Please
Elaborate.
Yeah. I mean, any room in Poseidon Adventure that would not either let you live or instantly kill you is the worst room. Like the
Yeah.
captain in the viewing deck, presumably just instantly gone. I mean, he got hit with like the glass and all of that stuff.
Right.
Anytime that gives you that like middle ground where you're like, I'm doomed, but I have time to think about it, that's the worst.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, my roommates and one of my roommates actually works in a kitchen, and when they went to the kitchen set and there's all the gas like in the fire and everything, they were like, that is the worst place to be. All the knives, all of the things in the kitchen that can harm you, like the fryer oil, like all that stuff.
Do you imagine being in a boat that flips upside down and your cause of death is knife wound? You'd just be reading that report like,
Like
ow.
there was a murder on the boat too.
What if you were like in one of those rooms that just has like an anvil and like a piano and like a bank vault? It has like all the Looney Tunes things that fall. on
You're in the
people.
Acme Vault.
Yeah,
the
you're in the
Poseidon.
Acme Vault.
Oh
That
my
would
God.
suck.
I was thinking about all the people that like hung on to like the tables when that room
Oh,
flipped
yeah.
over. Because I was like, oh, I guess that would be like an instinctual thing, you know, and they like were dexterous enough to hang on, but then they kind of just died anyway because then they had nowhere to go from there.
Because they
Like,
didn't know it was fully capsizing. They hadn't seen the movie. So they were
Yes,
like,
yeah,
that's true.
I
Or
thought
read
this
the
was-
book, if
or
they'd read the book.
Yeah. I thought this was the Sideways Boat Adventure.
Yeah.
Better title.
I was
That would have been
Yeah.
a better title.
It would have been it still has adventure in it, but yeah, then you're like, Sideways Boat. I'm in. I'm
I'm
intrigued.
intrigued.
Yeah. It's the end of Hard Ticket. Thomas, Frank, Meet Your Double Feature podcast. Thank you guys so much for being on Hard Ticket. It's been an awesome collaboration, but we're not done just yet because the end of the episode has arrived. You have to tell us about your Hard Ticket decision. I'm gonna go to Thomas first. I want to
Oh,
know
okay.
what your Hard Ticket is gonna go to between these two films.
My understanding, I've seen the program. My understanding is these are playing at a movie theater, and I need to pick one
Yes.
to go see because it's at the same time.
Right.
That's genuinely a very tough call. I feel like I've listened to several episodes where I had a clear answer, but these films are very different, but I enjoyed both of them a lot. And I would say that it's kind of a call between Poseidon Adventure is the stronger dramatic film for sure.
Yeah.
But Towering Inferno is a genuinely impressive spectacle film that kind of stands out more to me as something I have not seen before. So maybe this is an odd take, but I think I would sit through Towering Inferno again before I watch Poseidon Adventure again.
Okay.
Wow. All right. Nice.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the thought behind that. Frank.
I mean, I hate to just parrot what Thomas is saying, but I feel like going in, I think I was fully ready to pick the opposite. I think I was like, no, I'm not gonna watch. That's no. But I was gonna go see Poseidon Adventure. But I just like the visual spectacle of Towering Inferno is so engaging, and like having seen the Poseidon adventure and gone through those dramatic beats, I think if I were to choose one that I would, want to experience again, especially on a big screen, I actually feel like actually seeing the Towering Inferno in a theater on a big screen would be a great experience. So I think I have to go Towering Inferno as well.
Wow, 2 for Towering Inferno. Jeff Bogus, my co-host here on Hard Ticket. What is your Hard Ticket going to?
Yeah. The logic of the big screen, that makes a lot of sense. In context with both of these movies, they are spectacles. Weird to say Poseidon Adventure is a spectacle because it all is very internal, but it's almost like escape room after escape room, right?
Yeah.
Escape room from hell.
Yeah, I'm going to have to flip the ballast here because I am choosing the Poseidon Adventure as my hard ticket. I love the characters in the Poseidon Adventure, and I love the way that this ragtag group kind of interacts with each other. They're all like very different, and they've all, they've got their one trait. They're like Smurfs. Like, here's injured leg Smurf.
Injured leg Smurf. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I really, really enjoyed the Poseidon Adventure. I liked it a lot. I love the sets. I thought they had a chance to be a little bit more creative than the sets in the Towering Inferno. Not to say that those weren't impressive, but
it was just like office building on fire.
Right, with the Death Star shaft
With
in
the
there
Death Star
somewhere.
shaft. That was awesome, though.
But no, I'm going to give it.
Just falls through. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm giving it to the Poseidon Adventure. Tristan, where are you going?
Oh my gosh, I have the potential to make it evenly matched, but I'm not gonna do that.
Wow.
Yeah. I think I was generally more engaged by the Poseidon Adventure because it was more conventional, like viewing experience, like the characters and everything. It felt very character driven, and there was like a very clear morality play going on. But I agree with Thomas and Frank about the spectacle of the Towering Inferno. I really want to see that on a big screen. There were a couple set pieces where I was like, especially toward the end, where I was like, mouth hung open, like, how did they do that? That's awesome. Mm-hmm. I got more into it as it went on. I think it kind of had a weaker start, but as it went on, it was amazing. I'm really interested in the way that it is handling its characters as well. I do think there's something there that I would like to see more films actually get into, not be so concerned with making your characters like archetypes or making your characters like cartoonish, like just making them like people who are in a scenario and they all have to interact with each other. Feels like the only like really cartoonish person in Towering Inferno. Maybe it is the slimy stepson. And me and Jeff joked, we were like, we wish he was just the guy's son. Because I feel like stepson just makes him that much easier of a target. Yeah. He should have just been the son. I feel like that would have made it just a little bit less cartoonishly evil. But yeah, I gotta go. I gotta go Towering Inferno. I'm riding the Towering Inferno all the way to the top.
All right. Well, damn. Okay. I'm kind of.
You're gonna be alone in that other theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna get out before you.
That's true. Yeah.
That's
like
true.
almost.
You catch the last hour of Towering Inferno.
That's true. Yeah, which it might be the best part, honestly.
That's true,
that last hour. Damn. I didn't know how this was gonna go, but I'm kind of surprised I'm on my own here. I thought at least my own co-host wouldn't betray me here, but
damn,
it's fine. This was a great matchup, Thomas. This was just so much fun. I don't think I really would have sought these movies out if we hadn't decided to combine our collective podcasting powers for this crossover.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun when you pick something you haven't seen, but especially because all four of us watch enough movies to have very strong preconceived notions about things. Like, it's easy to just look at something and be like, oh, okay, 70s disaster. Like, I know 90% of what that's going to be, because sometimes you get genuinely surprised. And, sometimes you're like, sure, Robert Wagner's going to die, but he'll make it past that first end table, right? And then it's like, no, not at all.
No, he didn't make it.
Yeah, when he turns around, like, dressed up, like, in his little towel, and he winks at the audience, he's like, here I go.
He's like, don't ask me about Natalie Wood. And then he just ran into the flash.
You just needed to look me straight in the eye and say, you people are in for a show today. That is going to do it for us on this episode of Hard Ticket. Thomas, Frank, thank you again. Give us your plugs again. We want to make sure people seek you guys out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. Greatly appreciated. Big fans of your program as well. And hopefully, maybe in the future, you guys can hop on over to meet your double feature. We'll do this all again.
Yes.
That would be great.
We'd love it.
You can find us on every major podcast platform or by going to our website, meetyourdoubleFeature.com. We have new episodes on every other Thursday, talking about 2 movies at a time with Frank and I. And as mentioned previously, Frank's own film, Nate and Mariah in Venice, will be on streaming, presumably Q1, Q2 of this year. So stay tuned to our social channels for that. And yeah, thank you again. It's been so much fun.
Thank you.
Of course, absolutely. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Jared Tadlock, for designing our brand elements, keeping our podcast looking fresh. Thank you, Aaron Griffin, for mixing and mastering our theme song, sung by yours truly in a truly awful falsetto. You can follow me on Letterboxd at Jeff Blogus, all lowercase, all one word. You can follow the podcast on Instagram and Blue Sky at Hard Ticket Pod, all lowercase, all one word. Tristan?
Yeah, follow me on Letterboxd, Tristan Moore. I actually changed it. It was Tristan M. period. Now it's just my name, because I'm on the podcast anyways as my name, so whatever. You can follow me on Instagram at Tristan__less. Email the podcast, hardticketpodcast@gmail.com. Join our Discord. You can talk to Thomas and Frank. You can bombard them with questions. You can spam them. I'm just kidding. you can talk to the guys.
You can do it.
Yeah, and we also we have a upcoming Oscar sweepstakes where we're taking ballots, people putting in their predictions for the Oscars. If you get the most right of anybody who submits, you get to pick an episode that we're doing. So
yeah, and if you tie with someone else, we haven't figured that out yet. So we'll get to that when we get to it. But we're kicking off our Oscar marathon next week with the Neil Breen matchup. Actually, we're doing Begonia and Pass Through.
Yes.
So
Pass Through Gonia.
Yeah, you don't want to miss that one. It's a lot of fun. Oh boy, I can't wait. But until then, we will see you guys at the movies.
Bye-bye.
It's a hard ticket at the movies. Which one will you watch? Let's decide.